How to do easy patterning on non-patterning knitting machines. This video is all about the JAC40. Okay, so knitting machines come in all different kinds and shapes, and all of them have different possibilities, different options. On the first knitting machines that came out, you had to do all patterning by hand, so selecting all individual needles yourself. Then there came several different solutions to improve the selection of the needles. And one of those solutions was the JAC40, which basically is a punch card selection system operated by hand. Now today this is totally bypassed by much more complex and automated selection systems like integrated punch card systems, like electronic selection systems. But when you are knitting on an old vintage knitting machine, which I really like to do from time to time, this still today is a great option for selecting needles to do patterning. Let me show you. Oh, and by the way, I also offer channel memberships now with some additional benefits. For example, I've also got a video out now with a small tour of my knitting room with all the knitting machines that I have. So if you're interested in that, please consider becoming a channel member. Okay, so what is a JAC40? I have several of them and they all work the same, but they are slightly different. Let's address the differences first. There are different kinds of knitting machines with different needle spacings. There are knitting machines like the Brother, the Toyota, Empisal, some other brands as well, that have a needle spacing of 4.5 millimeters. That's the spacing between the different needles on the needle bed. There are the European style knitting machines, like the Passap knitting machines, the Singer Superba knitting machines. They have a needle spacing of 5 millimeters. And there are also Knittax knitting machines, and they have a needle spacing, if I'm not mistaken, it's slightly over 5 millimeters, 5.08 I think. So another different needle spacing. There are also other machines with different needle spacings, but for this video I think these are the most common needle spacings used with the JAC40. So to fit different knitting machines with different needle spacings, there are also different JAC40s. This one is for Brother knitting machines, for Toyota, for Empisal, for knitting machines with a spacing of 4.5 millimeters. And it corresponds exactly with the needle spacing of the machine. This one is with a spacing of 5 millimeters. It says Passap, so for the Passap and the Singer Superba, the European style machines. So the spacing is 5 millimeters, which corresponds exactly with the spacing of the needle pushers. This one is for Knittax knitting machines, and it has a spacing of just over 5 millimeters to fit exactly with the spacing of the knitting machine. So if you ever come across a JAC40, be sure to check you have the right one for your machine. It's a shame if you would make yourself happy with the wrong one. Okay, so these are the versions that I own. We have the one for the Passap and the Singer Superbas, the European knitting machines, the 5 millimeter machines, the 4.5 millimeter machines, and just over 5 millimeter machines for the Knittax. And they all work exactly the same. So I'm going to show you just on one. Back in the days they came with little sample cards, and on those cards there are samples of the things you can knit for the punch cards you could order. I have some punch cards here, specifically for this model. The other models have punch cards with different spacings. And I have a strap. And the strap is attached over here and is used so you can hang it around your neck for easy access when you're knitting. So this is the device. 2 eyelets for the straps, pins. We have 2 windows for instructions. We have a latch, and we have a groove where you can enter the punch card. So it's really quite basic. Now, it isn't called JAC40 for nothing. The 40 means it has 40 pins. That's the same on all JAC40 models. The spacing of the pins is different, but they all have 40 pins, which means they all come with punch cards 40 pins wide. Now, it's indicated over here, 40, Maschen, that's German, 40 pins wide. But you can also have a punch card with 32 wide, then it's just blank. But they all accommodate 40 pins wide. And every punch card has instructions. So this punch card is a Norweger technique, which means just a verhaal Norwegian knitting technique. 2 colors, color A, color E, main color, secondary color, the punch card number and the repeat. So this is a verhaal punch card, but of course you can also have for tuck stitch, you can have for slip stitch, just everything you need patterning for, there are punch cards. Okay, to enter a punch card, I'm going to push on this lever, so the pins come up. I turn my device around, and with the arrow pointing down, I'm going to enter it into the slot on the back. Like so. I'm going to turn my device around and turn the lever back to the front. So now the punch card is entered, and I can just continue increasing one row at a time until the instructions are visible in the windows. And there is number 1, so the first row, and you have to knit it with color A, the main color, and you have to knit with color E, the secondary color. So these instructions depend on what kind of punch card you're knitting. If you're knitting a jacquard, so for multicolor punch card, you can even knit with more colors than just 2. If you're knitting tuck stitch or slip stitch, the instructions differ. For this jacquard pattern, for this verhaal pattern, it says the first row to knit with 2 colors. Then you advance, then you knit the second row 2 colors again, and you see there come different numbers of pins to select different numbers of needles according to the punch card pattern. And you continue like this. So it's really quite basic. Depending on the knitting machine, I like to add a strap. When I'm at my Passap knitting machines, I like to add a strap because it's easy to have it hanging around my neck. With the strap like so it hangs around my neck, I can advance my punch card and I can easily use it without having to place it somewhere else. When I'm at my Knittax knitting machine, I use it without the strap because I can easily place it on the table. Now let me show you how it works by knitting a small sample. And this is my JAC40 for the Knittax, and I'm going to knit this sample on the Knittax. Okay, I'm at my knitting machine. I'm going to do a quick setup. I am not going to explain in full detail how to knit on a Knittax knitting machine. I did several videos about that, but I am going to show you how to use the JAC40. Now you knit with a JAC40 according to your knitting machine. So the JAC40 is for selecting the needles, but how many passes you have to make, what settings you have to make, those depend on your knitting machine. And those are different for a Knittax, different for a Passap, different for any brand, other kind, any type of knitting machine. So I'm going to do a quick setup. I'm going to select 30 needles, so 15 to the left side of 0, 15 to the right side of 0. And on a Knittax machine, the 0 is also a needle, so it's basically 31 needles, which is smaller than the 40 needles you can use on the JAC40. But you can go as small or as wide as you want. If you want to go wider than 40 stitches, you just select on different parts of the needle bed. So, quick setup. I have some yarn, I place it on the floor, wrapping the needles. And knitting my first row. Laying the yarn. So now I'm just going to knit a few rows to get started. Okay, so I have knitted a few rows to get started, and now I want to start with my jacquard, with my Fair Isle pattern. And on a knitting machine I have to pull up both knobs. I take my JAC40, I'm going to knit the first row in color. There are 3 guides on the back, this middle guide and these 2 red guides on the side. And you place this middle guide for needle number 0. And I place it on my needle bed like so. So now I always know when I place that guide for needle number 0, the line also marks needle number 0, that my motif will always be at the same position. And now I pull my needles forward. So these needles are forward now. First I'm going to knit with my main color yarn. So I lay in my main color yarn on all the needles. I'm checking that the latches are open. And I go back. This is just standard practice for knitting Fair Isle on a Knittax machine. Now I take my selection comb and I place the selected needles back into working position. And now I lay in a second color yarn in those needles. And I push the knob that's away from the knitting. And I take my carriage across. And immediately I push the knob up again. So both knobs are back up in the position. My needles now are back in working position. And I advance my JAC40. Row number 2, 2 colors. Same selection as row number 1. I place my guide in the rail for needle number 0. And I select these needles. Lay in my main yarn, across twice, push the selected needles back in working position, lay in the contrast yarn, push in this knob that's away from the knitting, carriage across, row number 2 knitted, and immediately pull up the knob. Okay, row number 2 knitted. Now advance, row number 3, a different selection. And you basically continue like this for as long as you want to knit your motif. Now, this is one triangle of motifs knitted, so now I'm going to knit a few more rows in plain color and take it off the machine. And here are our triangles. Of course, you can continue knitting triangles, you can do whatever you want. But this is just a small example of how easy it is to knit with a JAC40. So you can knit Fair Isle motifs, you can knit tuck stitch motifs, you can knit slip stitch motifs. It all depends on the punch card that you've got. Okay, so this is what I know about the JAC40 and what I can tell you from my personal use. Where I live in the Netherlands, I don't often see a JAC40 for sale on second-hand websites, but sometimes you do. And if you do, it's a great addition when you love knitting on vintage knitting machines. I hope you will find one and enjoy it too. And be sure to get the right one with the right needle spacing. Now you know what to look for. I want to say a big thank you to my channel members for making these videos possible. Thank you. If you want to support my channel and get some extra benefits along the way, be sure to consider also becoming a channel member. Several membership tiers are available. Click the membership button below this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I know I really enjoyed making this video for you. I wish you happy knitting and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!